that, getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is round number 5 of the season, coming to you today from Montreal. My name is Ron Maunz, and alongside me, working the comms and the cams, is Joshua Wilkie. Well, Josh, we head up into your territory here, albeit it's on the complete opposite side of Canada. Montreal, you were recently in Ontario on vacation, probably didn't get the opportunity to visit this track, but it has passed off into legend in the world of Canadian motorsports. When it was built back in the 70s under the original name of Circuit Ile Notre Dame, it has been the host of some absolutely iconic moments. Of course, the Canadian Grand Prix and F1. IndyCar has raced here along with NASCAR, but here we've got some slightly slower machinery, but still the same great Montreal action as usual.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. And yeah, I was actually in Ontario not long ago. We weren't too close to Montreal this time, but I did actually used to live out near Montreal for many years. Never made it to the F1 race, unfortunately. I just happened to not be in town or what have you, but what an amazing racetrack Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve is. Technical, fast, bit of drafting out there. You know, you're fighting the track and you're fighting your competitors around here. You almost need to see a pass coming around around this place to not have an incident, and you're going to need to have some buddies out there to race with to have a clean and efficient race around here and finish. So I'm pretty excited to see how these drivers are going to figure that out today, how they're going to work it out, and I think we're going to have a great race around Montreal for sure.
Yeah, this is going to be a challenging one for sure, this old scan of the racetrack. You could tell that NASCAR was still racing here with the GoDaddy sponsorship, the Dodge sponsorship, back when Dodge was still a part of, at that point it was a NASCAR Nationwide series when they raced here last. But this track is super fun. I always enjoyed it, got the first opportunity to race it in the old F1 games on my Xbox, and then got the opportunity to drive it on iRacing, an older version of the track here on iRacing. Probably is in desperate need of a scan, but I think the iRacing laser scan crew is maybe a little bit wary about getting bagels thrown at them by very upset Quebecers trying to disrupt their day in the park. Looking at qualifying at the moment, about to get some of the first lap times on the board. I want to thank Chris Montgomery for making today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting possible. I want to thank all of you for tuning into the show here on SMB today. We've got another good one here for the Formula V's, and we'll be heading to this exact same racetrack in about 24 hours time for the next round of the Spec Racer Ford. So bit of a Montreal doubleheader in the Weekend Warriors world. This track I really enjoyed. It does have some pitfalls throughout, and Josh, I will let you do the honors of doing a little onboard track guide, if you would, of Chris Montgomery's guide around here.
Yeah, absolutely. So down the front straight here, just through the last corner, I believe we call that one the Wall of Champions there. We'll see if anybody finds that one today, but here's a pretty good rip, not very actually straight, but a good place to set up a pass into this first left-right chicane here. One of the sharper corners on the course here, this right-hander. You want to get on the power as early as you possibly can, take it as wide as you can, and then maybe another opportunity here. If you can get that corner right, you will probably see some attempts into this section here, but you've got to get it done before you get to that apex. And this wall here as well, you could probably call that maybe the wall of second place finishers. There's or last place finishers, or people who don't finish, because lots of people hit that wall as well. Difficult section here as well. Really got to get it slowed down. Montgomery doing it correctly there and taking a lot of that inside curb and getting on the gas as early as you can. Probably don't want to take it all the way to the wall there, just to save a little bit of track. Going to want to hug the right side here to kind of shorten the course a little bit, and then into another chicane here with some big sleeping policemen, they like to call them in England, on the inside there. Again, another wall you can find here on the outside. Lots of pitfalls around Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. As I was saying in the beginning there, this is a bit of a survival around here as well, with other drivers around you making good decisions, and one of them being whether you're going to pass somebody into this hairpin. Very strange hairpin, this one. I've always found it the entry to be a little bit difficult, and the exit is just, there's so much room that there's a couple different lines you can take there, and you'll probably see some cars fanning out too wide even as they come out of that section in here, and then obviously into the biggest, longest straight on the course here, and we're going to see a bunch of 2 and 3 wide scenarios going down into the final chicane here. I believe this is 13 and 14. You really want to get it sorted out before you get here. You do not want to be side by side, and we're probably going to see some people teasing that wall today, but the closer you get to it, the faster the lap time, and that was a pretty tidy one for Chris Montgomery there. We'll see what he can put in.
Yeah, Montgomery was quick on his first time. I think he's going to be quick once again. Currently qualified in 4th at the present moment. Will he improve? We'll just have to see. He does not, although was pretty close, only about a 10th off. Darmaid Toomey, your pole sitter in the last round of the championship, is currently at the top of the pole. Felix Samoas, in his return as the reigning champion here in the Formula V's, is set to join him on the front row. Now, I will say, and a bit of an admission put into this, I will be honest. Last week, you're now 4 times in a row winner to get this season up and rolling of Tortello, said that he would not be here. He would not be here this week. He said that at the interview last week, and because of the fact that I can't even remember what I had for dinner last night, I forgot why. I believe he's racing in Japan, although I can't remember exactly what machinery he is racing in. So I'll have to hit my books and listen into the interview last week to fully remember that. But no, he's not going to be here this week, so that will give other people the opportunity to pounce. I feel like Darmaid Toomey is going to be the one to do it. He's been really quick thus far this season, of course, really quick in this qualifying session, holding on to the provisional pole. Nearly walked away with his first ever win last time at New Hampshire, but circumstances not really allowing him to do that. This time, however, things may be different north of the border.
Yeah, he's definitely leading at the moment here by about a tenth of a second or so. And then, right behind that is getting closer and closer. And then another about 0.3 to Chris Montgomery. So, again, I think that's sort of reflective of this track. You've got some people who've been able to put that lap down here in the first 8 minutes, and maybe a couple other drivers who haven't quite been able to squeeze out that extra few tenths of a second to be able to be up in the hundreds and the 200s there, I'd say. And you're going to get probably pretty close by the end here, but actually getting that lap, actually putting that lap down around here can be very difficult, and it's about consistency and stuff for sure. And obviously staying off those walls and those curbs can really slow you down. Andy Middleton actually in 4th place here, putting down a purple sector in Sector 1 there. Looks like maybe not so good in Sector 2. So again, sort of indicative of how difficult this track can be. You can be on a bit of a flyer, but the lap is really not over until you hit that last 13 and 14 complex. They're one of the hardest parts of the track, and I can definitely attest. You're thinking about that as you're rolling into it every lap, how you're going to attack that corner and where exactly you're going to brake for that corner, and it can be difficult. You don't want to be out there looking for time during the race around here. You want to be comfortable. You want to know where your braking zones are, and you don't want to be trying to extend your braking zone into there while you're racing. You want to have it pretty laid out, have your lap pretty dialed in by then, or else you're going to make some mistakes around here, I think is the way to go.
Yeah, and that's a fabulous point you bring up there, Josh. Of all the racetracks in the world of Formula One that I would want to be the most sure of, it is this one. And it can end in disaster rather quickly. This is technically a street circuit built on the man-made island that they made for, I believe it was the World's Fair back in 1972. They also had some Olympic events during this when Montreal played host the Olympics not too long ago. It's a very odd history surrounding this event, but it is still technically a street circuit, even though you do have some runoff areas, some curbs, and some tire bundles on either side of you. So it's not like Monaco or Long Beach, but it can still bite and bite hard. So these competitors will have to keep an eye on it all throughout the day to see whether or not they can walk away with the W. Some drivers trying to return to victory lane, others just looking to keep the momentum rolling. Here in the Formula V's, momentum is the name of the game. You always want to keep it going out there on the track, otherwise you're going to lose out on a boatload of spots. And you want to keep it going when it comes to the season as well, because even though we have 12 rounds, same length of an iRacing season, so it is one of the longer calendars in the other world of leagues, you still got to keep with it. You got to keep up the tempo. It's a marathon, but in the sense that if you stop on that run, you probably don't want to start back up again.
Yeah, absolutely, and some good points there. Momentum being the key, not only in a championship, but definitely around here in the V's as well. And this place being, there's flowy sections of this track, and there's kind of stop-start sections of this track, and you've really got to get them both right to kind of get the track right. As we're seeing, actually, Darmaid Toomey now taking even more of a lead out of Felix Simoes and Guido Marzucci there, and they're Felix and Guido not really moving much from their time, but Darmaid Toomey able to find a few more tenths on top of that pretty awesome time from before there. So into the 203s now. That's going to be a little bit difficult to fight with out there. As we know, these are very draft-heavy vehicles, and you're going to be able to stay with someone. Even if you are a little bit slower, it's actually really frustrating sometimes in these, or the SRF, where you have more speed. You can be a second faster than someone on certain tracks, and it doesn't matter. They're going to be able to keep up with you every lap, and you can get through the kind of faster sections that you're faster at, but it won't matter because they're going to get it all back on the two straightaways, and we're going to see a lot of that out here today. So it will be interesting to see if Darmaid can actually take off here and break a lead, or if Felix Simoes and Guido Marzucci can give him a run for his money, maybe find some of those tricks out there that you definitely need to be fast and around Circuit de Gilles here and catch up, or maybe even make a pass around him.
And on a racetrack like this as well, with many fiddling fiddles throughout, these racers are going to be in for a world of hurt. They'll have to crack the riddle to figure out how to get around this place as quickly as possible. That was about as slick as 80 grit sandpaper. Here's Jason Grider making his way all through the hairpin, turn number 10. And again, the momentum rolling onto this back straightaway. Another interesting point talking about this track, more specifically that back end of the circuit. I mentioned that this track originally wasn't called Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Of course, it was named in honor of the Canadian F1 legend and who unfortunately passed away in a practice crash for, actually it was a qualifying crash, excuse me, in Zolder many moons ago. But when they first opened up this track, usually in the world of racing, tracks get a bit more complicated. They add in more chicanes, add in more turns as time goes along to slow it down. This track has actually gone consistently quicker and quicker over the years. If anyone ever goes on to what is my personal favorite website on the entirety of the internet, racingcircuits.info, and looks at the original layouts of this circuit, the pit lane was down at the hairpin. There's about 5 chicanes on the start-finish straightaway and the straightaway before the champion chicane at the end of the lap. There were so many odd and peculiar things. The same kind of base layout has remained the same over the years, but many other alterations have been made throughout the years that create this this beast of a track that we know today. Qualifying just about taken care of, and Darmay Toomey looking to become not the first driver thus far this season to get back-to-back pole positions, but he would still be able to get it by a significant margin. Look at that gap between himself and Felix Samoas. I'm not saying that's big, because this is an over 2-minute lap, but that is a sizable margin, no less.
Yeah, when we're talking Formula Vs, that's a pretty big gap over 1 lap. But as I said, it can be difficult just to find your lap that you know how to do around here, and it wouldn't surprise me if Felix Samoes and Guido Marzucci just kind of struggling to get their lap around here. But, that would be a little bit ominous to me, honestly, if I'm looking at it in Felix and Guido's position here, where he's got a 2:03.8 versus a 2:04.2. That's a pretty big gap when it comes to a Formula V around this track, as we know. So, again, you're fighting the track out there. This is a long race. You've got to keep it out of the walls. You got to keep it off the curbs. You got to keep it off the grass. You've got to keep it out of your competitors. This is not an easy place to race around. I'm hoping to be able to jump in the SRFs tomorrow and race around here. And I know I have pace around here. I think we were practicing last week there, and I was up in the top 3 or 4. I'm sure some people have found some more pace since then, but I should be, easily be able to be in the top 10. But it's not going to matter, because staying alive around here is what's difficult. And you need, as I said in the beginning, you need people to kind of see a pass coming around here too. And if you fight for apex every corner around here, A, you're probably going to end up in the wall, and B, it's just very slow. So we'll see how the competitors work with each other today, and hopefully we get a nice clean race out of her in the end.
Yeah, and that is the ultimate goal, hoping that we get a clean, smooth day of racing action here for round number 5 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Staying alive is key, so break out your BGCDs. Let's take a look at the starting grid here for the 5th round of this championship. It's Darmay Toomey with back-to-back poles. Felix Samoes, your pole sitter in the opening round of the season quite a few weeks ago at Snetterton, will join him on the front row. Row number 2 is Guido Marzucchi alongside Andy Middleton. Brian Sazinski and Chris Montgomery, the sponsor of today's broadcast, will complete row number 3. Nate Colascio in his series return will start this race in P7 next to Rodrigo Tostes in P8. Michelle Lynn will start this race in 9th, with Justin Huffman completing a top 10 comprised entirely out of Spec 1 racers. Fascinating to see that here today. Jim Brewster is going to be starting from the Masters pole position, the first time that he started from the pole in Masters class thus far this season. He'll be in 11th alongside your Spec 2 pole sitter of Martin Visser, running at the first page of our grid.
Yeah, pretty orderly there, wasn't it, with all the Spec 1s, and then we have our first Masters, and then right after that our first Spec 2, and then Brian Hansen in 13th place. Nick Tullo will be our second place Masters driver in 14th. In 15th we have Jason Grider. In 16th, Stephen Westcott. In 17th, Dan Straczynski from Straczynski Motorsports. Gary Kittle will be in 18th. In 19th, we have Michael Laturo. In 20th, Wayne Buttermore. In 21st, we have Gary Thompson. 22nd, Brent Thompson. And Stevie Ray has made an appearance right at the very end of the session here in 23rd. Don't think he got a lap in, but great to see him out there.
Yeah, nice to see Stevie out there on the racetrack for the first time in quite some time here in the Formula V's. So let's see how things go in this race. I'm expecting a fun one. I think we have some high hopes for this race that lie ahead, and I'll let you all know that if you're enjoying the broadcast here on SMB, you should probably do what that graphic just said, and it's now saying once again hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. They're now rolling on this half pace lap. They're lined up right before the hairpin, which I'll be honest, Josh, I'm a little bit nervous about on the first lap. What section of the track do you think you're probably the most scared of on lap 1?
Oh boy, honestly, the first section into the first couple corners there, probably the first 4 corners, honestly, pretty much every corner on the first lap, if you have a bunch of cars around you and behind you, it is very difficult around here to sort this first lap or 2 out. It's narrow, there's walls everywhere. As I said in the beginning, you kind of need people to play ball on the first couple laps and be willing to sort themselves out and willing to facilitate a pass here and there. If you don't see that pass coming, if you really try to turn the screws on somebody, it's probably not going to work out good for either one of you around here. So I think we got a lot of drivers out here who know that, and we're probably going to have a pretty good first lap here, but we shall see, Ron, in every corner to answer the question more straightforward. They're all scary.
Yeah, it is a terrifying prospect here at Montreal, but we now have a green flag out. The drivers are racing here at Montreal for round number 5 of the season. And it's Darmaid Toomey getting off to a flyer. Everybody else slotted in right behind, trying to duke it at make hay while the sun is shining side by side between Guido Marzucchi and Andy Middleton off into turn number 1. That's Marzucchi edging out. The Italians beat the British here for the time being as they head their way out of 2 through into the fiddly part of this racetrack. 3 all the way through to turn number 7. It feels like you are constantly battling something, and even in these Formula V's with the power of a microwave, that is still the exact same case. They nearly fanned out 3 wide. 3 wide for sure, nearly 4 wide, in fact, as they had their way into the 3 and 4 chicane, but Darmaid Toomey doing everything that he needed to do to jump out to an early gap.
Yeah, it looks like pretty clean up at the front here. Those first sections, first couple corners there's a lot of room, to kind of get beside each other. And we saw, a little bit of side-by-side there, but everybody's sorting themselves out where they needed to before it gets too tight. And we're looking pretty clean so far. So again, like I was saying, you kind of got to facilitate those passes. You sort of have to play ball with your competitors around you. And that's what we're seeing here, I think, in spades. We're seeing a lot of friendly driving, a lot of hard but friendly driving here so far, and that's exactly what you need around Circuit de Gilles, and you'll have a blast around here if that's the case. This place is so fun to drive around when you're not worrying too much about someone up your inside every corner, lap after lap after lap after lap. So we'll see how it fans out here, but it looks like we're starting to sort ourselves out. Bit of smoke looks like going in, and we do have a spinner in the background there. Unfortunately, looked like it was maybe all by himself, but we'll have to go back and have a look at that. Pretty clean lap for the first one, Ron.
The hairpin strikes once more, trying to figure out who that was a little bit farther behind. I believe it may have potentially been Brett Thompson, although I will have to double check that. In the meantime, Felix Samoas jumps into that top spot. He's now running in front of Darmaid Toomey. Guido Marzucchi running in third. The top 7 comprised entirely out of Spec 1 racers, but they're still swapping up at the north end. Darmaid Toomey now fighting back. He's going to try and go for the move to take the race lead once more. Even on the lap times there, I know it's lap 1, but if that doesn't tell you how competitive this series is, I really don't think anything would. Felix Samoas with a bit of a wiggle off through turn number 2, having to check Guido up a little bit. The gap pulls out with Darmaid Toomey nearly a half a second up in front, but again, these cars have the same amount of power as your local dishwasher, so not really able to pull ahead too much.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can't really just put a boot in and make up for a mistake with these, can you, Ron? You have to really kind of preempt a couple moves ahead of yourself. You have to be 3 steps ahead to really make a pass work or to get any kind of speed out of the cars. To be honest, you just have to be able to think a little bit differently than you would in some other cars. But keeping that momentum up. I know around a track like this too, that kind of wants to kill your momentum everywhere, isn't an easy thing to do. You can find a flow around here. It can be kind of flowy, but you have to kind of roll with the punches for that to be the case around here. You have to use those curbs and get close to those walls without them freaking you out, and then it can kind of feel flowy. If not, this place can feel really stop-starty and very abrupt and so on. Once things kind of start to fall out of sync, let's say, it can get real frustrating. So you can have a good day or a bad day around Canada for sure. And it looks like for the most part we're having some pretty good days around here. I'm going to go back and see if we can't figure out exactly maybe what happened to the spinner in the hairpin here. And I believe this is going to be Stefan Westcott. And I think he did it all on his own here. Pretty easy to trip over your brakes on the first couple laps, isn't it, Ron? Well, he got a bit of help, actually, didn't he? That's Wayne Buttermore getting into the back of Stephen Westcott there. And then we're going to have a bit of an argy-bargy moment here. Some perhaps tempers flaring there. And, yeah, we're just going to stay pinned in the wall. So that's what that is. That's not something you want to see there. Some tempers boiling over, I think.
Yeah, that got physical very quickly. A little bit unnecessary, if I'm honest, but the hairpin strikes once more. A driver spinning up in front, I believe, looking through that may have... I think that may have been Dan Szynski, the initial car that spun, and then Westcott and Wayne Buttermore turning his Formula V into a monster truck as he headed his way out of the hairpin. That was certainly an unfortunate moment for all of those racers. Brett Thompson out of this race, currently slotted in 23rd, the last of the drivers in the field, obviously, as your only retiree. As we were taking a look at that replay, though, the drama is still going on up at the front. Here was, if that's a preview of the finish, I'm not sure if my vocal cords will be able to take it. That was Felix Samoza and Darmay Toomey battling right at the end of lap 1 and the start of lap 2, and that was Toomey jumping in to that top spot. Now this track, despite being twisty, technical, and a little bit fiddly, you've still got some long, flat-out sections that's probably going to give us a quite appetizing game of leapfrog throughout. We are in Quebec. I know that the French do eat frog legs, so we'll have to see if these drivers decide that this is a scrumptious way to spend their Saturday.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And yeah, you're right. It's getting a little bit froggy out there for sure already. You can kind of see, and I was just going to mention in that replay there, I'm mainly watching Guido in the background, sort of watching what's going on in front of him there, just waiting for something to happen. And man, something can happen around here. If you get too froggy out there, it can get bad really fast. So we just lost, I believe that was Nate Colascio blinking in and out, unfortunately. Not something you want to see if you're hanging out behind the Chiquita Banana car at all, but seems to happen every once in a while, something you have to deal with in iRacing. We've got a few drivers having a look kind of into the wall of champions there, and I believe all that really is, Ron, is just intimidation move, right? It's press square to intimidate. You're trying to figure out whether or not this guy in front of you is looking in his mirrors, if you can intimidate him, and as we all know, it's pretty easy to get intimidated into turn 13 and turn 14. Actually, truth be known, even in practice for SRFs last week, I got right intimidated into it, trying to go up the inside. Had a good run on the driver beside me, and thought, okay, maybe he'll let me have it and I can pull out to the outside and we can both get through this corner nice and fast. But nope, he held my feet to the fire on the inside, and I bumped the inside curb a little bit too hard. Hit the outside curb, hit the wall of champions, took out another car with me, and that's just how easy it can happen. Even when you're just trying to kind of get around somebody, hoping they're going to play ball with you or something, and they don't. It's so easy to strike a curb here or bump the wall, and when you do, it's really easy to get caught up in it as well. You can see some of the proximity of the cars here, and if you bump the wall in front of you through the wall of champs, chances are you're getting spit out in the middle of the racetrack. So yeah, there's a lot of pitfalls around here, and it's not an easy place to drive around. We're seeing some pretty good driving from everybody so far.
Yeah, everybody's running a rather tight ship. It has been a smooth one. We, of course, had that drama heading off into the hairpin that this front pack is about to enter right now. And I will say, and this is honest, I haven't watched the History Channel in a while, so I haven't seen those conspiracy theory alien shows in quite some time. But I never knew that the aliens took a keen liking in Chiquita Bananas, but I guess you'll learn something new every day. Outside of that, it has been a very smooth start. Couple of packs kind of forming and breaking away. We, of course, have this top one that we have on screen right now. Brian Suzinski desperately trying to cling on, currently running in P7 at the moment, nearly 9.5 tenths of a second off. So we may start to see this battle turn into a 5-car fight, as look at Marzuki trying to go for the 2-for-1 deal. Guido clipping the coupon into the chicane, and he gets the move done.
Very nice, smooth, well planned out move from Guido there. Perfect run. And again, I'm going to say it again. That was 2 drivers who facilitated a pass right there. They saw it coming, and instead of fighting for apex, they let it happen, and now they're all living to play another day. They're going to get those positions back quickly, and they know it. There's lots of draft left to do. There's lots of laps left to do. And I guarantee you, if one of those 2 drivers had decided to hold Guido to the inside, everybody would have had a problem right there. And that's some good driving from everybody around there. And we're going to keep on playing here. We're going to keep on racing, and that's racing right there. That's what it is. You need to respect your competitors around you. Obviously, we all make mistakes. I make them all the time too. You know, it's easy to say these things, much harder to execute them. We're not all Mario Andretti. We don't all hit our marks every single time we get in the car, but having that mindset out there and trying to remember that, you know, there's more corners and there's more fighting to be done here. Not every corner and every apex is somewhere to fight. So some great passes there from Guido. See if we can't actually load up a replay maybe from inside the cockpit here. It's a little bit far back, isn't it? Maybe we can see if we can get a better one than that. But he's going to get this, or sorry, nope, that wasn't quite it, was it? We'll see if we can get a good replay of that setup of that pass, because it was great. And he definitely had 2 competitors there who saw it coming.
Yeah, and 2 competitors that are keeping in tow with him that can't be set up at the pack farther behind. That will fan out into side-by-side racing. Chris Montgomery going for the dive on Nate Colacio into the hairpin. And all of that battling, Andy Middleton has lost out on about a second to Samoas. So this 4-car train that I thought was maybe going to lose touch with the rest of the pack, well, they haven't lost touch in the case of Montgomery and Suzinski, who were starting to drop back. However, it's been a break it down the middle. That 7-car fight has now turned into a 3 and 4 affair. Looking at the 4 right now, is Montgomery going to try and get the move done on Colacio into the chicane. Similar shades to what we saw from Guido 1 lap ago, but moves into the chicane usually do not end well. Only a little bit of experience from my own personal adventures on YouTube. I was actually recently doing a video about Timo Glock's Champ Car career, and yes, he did race the Champ Car for 1 year in 2005, and he nearly won the race, the Champ Car race at Montreal that year. The reason why he lost was because he went off the track and gained an advantage through the chicane when Oriol Servia went for a move on him, and instead of Timo getting his 1 and only Champ Car win, it was Servia getting his 1 and only Champ Car win that day. Side-by-side racing can go well at the front. Sometimes it can end poorly. I think there may have been something end poorly, because I'm looking at the front. Felix Samoas has driven off into the sunset. Guido Marzuki is now running in P6, and what in the world happened to Dorme Toomey? He's now in 3rd.
Yeah, something up front has definitely happened here while we jumped away for that replay. I'm going to see if I can't load it up, because I'm seeing in my ticker here as well, there's a bunch of pass Colacio, pass Montgomery, Montgomery, pass Colacio. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of stuff going on here. I will try to figure out exactly how that played out, but we've definitely got a bit of a switch up at the front here. Felix Samoas leading now at the HP car of Andy Middleton just behind him, and then Darman Toomey down in 3rd place with Guido Marzucci all the way back in 7th.
Yeah, so what in the world took place? They had it made, essentially. They were running with a 1.2, nearly 1.5 second gap back to Andy Middleton, and then side-by-side racing all through this first chicane. Very tough to make it clean, and Guido running into the back of Felix, kind of catching Dorme Toomey out a little bit, maybe a little bit of contact. We'll have to see if there's any damage on Dorme Toomey's machine, but certainly Guido losing out in all of that. He has now been dropped back into the battle with Justin Huffman, Jim Brewster, and Rodrigo Tostes. Dorme Toomey still in the fight, though. He's currently battling out with Andy Middleton. This is scrap for 2nd at the moment. These racers do have to take it a little bit easy, though, because Felix Samoas has a very good opportunity to break away and drive off into the sunset, and that wouldn't be the first time we've seen that happen thus far this season either, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be fairly easy here if they continue to fight over position for him to kind of drive away here now. And that was a pretty uncharacteristic move from Guido there. Just a little bit too much roll speed, perhaps, trying to keep that car rolling and that momentum up, and just timed it a little bit wrong. Ended up in the back of Felix Samoas, spun almost took a couple cars with him there, but it's pretty unfortunate for Guido's running so good after making such a good move too, you know, for it to just fall apart like that's always a bit of a bummer, but we know he'll be back fighting some more. But Darmid Toomey here now, bit of work to do, trying to find, see if he can get the pace back up to Felix Simoes here, hoping that the HP car of Middleton here doesn't fight too hard on him, I would imagine right now. But of course, you know, the HP car of Middleton also dealing with Coliseo fighting him and Chris Montgomery fighting him, and that's how it goes. A little bit of time lost by Brian Trzynski there too. I'm not sure if that's because he kind of checked up a bit watching all that stuff happen, but he is definitely still in tow and able to strike here at some point. He's going to have to pick up the pace a little bit, or he will lose that draft. He's just barely in the draft at the moment here, just under a second now. So that's kind of where you're going to feel it in these cars, right, Ron? Right around a second. You might feel a bit of a tickle of the air past a second, but you really start to feel that pull at about a second behind the car in front of you.
You know, the draft is kind of like a sprinkler. If you're right up to it, you're going to get soaked. However, even if you're standing a little bit farther behind, you may get a slight dusting. So that's what we're seeing at the moment. These racers are trying to cling on to the draft as best as they can. We'll say the back half of this pack had some sort of drama go on with them. Nate Coliseo, Ryan Szczynski, and Chris Montgomery dropping down like anvils pushed out of helicopters. Coliseo slowing up. I think he may have a slowdown. Potentially got it off through the chicane of 8 and 9, which is very easy to do. Coliseo towed back the pit lane. There had to have been some damage or some sort of massive conundrum there. Let's take a look at here, Josh. This is rather strange.
Yeah, we do have cars kind of lying astern here. Montgomery looking up the outside here, probably just getting some vision on it. And it looks like he's going to break a little bit late, kind of accordion effect there. And unfortunately, that one's going to end up in Coliseo. So I think that kind of just caught Montgomery out a bit. It's sort of accordioned in front of him there. And, you know, that can happen. It looked like he was looking kind of up the outside there to get a good line of vision on the corner. And maybe it kind of caught him out a little.
Yeah, I don't know what's in the air in Montreal, but this now 2 occasions in this race that I've seen a Formula V be able to drive over another. I never knew that Formula Vs had monster truck qualities. I know the wheels are giant compared to the chassis, most certainly the front nose cone, but this is getting a little bit out of hand. Here's a battle with Martin Visser and Michael Lattarulo. This for P12 at the moment. It's actually a fight for second in the Spec 2 category. Jason Grider currently holding on to the top spot there. Want to give some love to JG1. We haven't really talked about it too much. 6 spots gained ever since it dropped the green flag. Tied for the hard charger with Michael Lattarulo, who's running in 13th at the moment. It's been a very good race. We were thinking that it was probably going to be the Martin Visser show, as it was last week, as he won there, but hasn't really been the case. Jason Grider really showing up today. Bravo.
Yeah, making up some positions for sure. Not easy, you know, out there. It can be fun sometimes. You're mid-packer. I think it was last weekend there. I ended up spinning on the first lap, which is pretty much par for the course for me. I get spun or spin myself on the first lap, end up in last place. And then I spent the whole race basically from, I think it was 32nd place back to about 16th place. And it was fun coming back through the pack. If you have pace and you kind of know the track, it can actually be kind of fun, you know, to make your way through the pack. Obviously, you want to finish up front. It was a little bit frustrating not to be where you think you should be, but nonetheless, it can be fun, you know, to race at anywhere in the pack, as long as you've got somebody to race with back there. And a pretty good fight for Spec 2 there in second place between 12th and 13th overall, Martin Visser and Michael Lattarulo. We got Nick Tullo in second place for the Masters as well. Kind of not really in touch with the other Masters driver of Jim Brewster in front of him at the moment here. Pretty big gap between them, but you know, anything can change here at the moment. And of course, we're all racing for points here at the end of the day. Even though we're racing in class, we are still racing for overall points. So you want to hold that position, see if maybe you can fight with some people around you, gain a position or two, and it all adds up at the end of the season.
Yeah, just stack up those points, stack the pennies, and eventually you'll have $1 million. Everybody looking to try and get through the end of this race. It's been a hectic one here at Montreal. Been pretty tricky to keep up with all the action, but thankfully here on Slow Motion Broadcasting through Whiplash Simcams, we've been able to do that. I want to thank Whiplash for providing the cameras for the broadcast here on SMB, as we follow Guido Morzuki running all by himself in P5 at the moment. However, the pack farther behind that he was involved in, it is still intense there. Jim Brewster currently running at the top of Masters, a rather thin Masters class here in this race. Only 3 Masters drivers out there on the racetrack currently, as Gary Thompson and Stevie Ray have both retired. Nick Tullo is running in P10 at the moment, and Wayne Buttermore, after that drama early on, is running down in 18th. But Jim Brewster has the challenge from Justin Huffman right behind, and Rodrigo Tostas running in tow as well. We occasionally see the Huffmans race in the other Esports Club Racing League that you can catch sporadically on Wednesdays here on SMB. That is Formula Enterprise royalty in the SECA, so nice to see them out there on the racetrack. Justin, the father to Jameson, running out here in the Formula Vs. I've gotten the opportunity to cover him here, and funnily enough, it was the finish to it was a Ray Esports event back when they were held on Tuesdays, and it was Justin winning that race. It was a fantastic finish at Road Atlanta, excuse me. And I actually used that in my one of my first ever demo reels for broadcasting. So whenever I see Justin Huffman running in a Formula V, I think of my no good, very bad, very shoddy demo reels where I sounded like I was being held hostage. Here's a fight with Martin Visser. He's trying to duke it out with Michael Lattarulo. This is a battle for 12th at the moment. Visser trying to use the draft, and he uses it to perfection to jump his way up the spots.
Yeah, nice clean pass down the straight there. He's going to try to get him back. I didn't really get through 13 and 14 there well, so he's going to be under attack now from Michelle Lynn as well on the outside here. So back and forth between the two S2 drivers there, been a pretty fun thing to watch, and Michelle Lynn is going to capitalize on their battle here and just take both positions from them fairly easily there. So she's off into the sunset now, and I was just gonna say there's another really good example of a driver kind of facilitating a pass there, and then they got into it on the next corner trying to fight for it. So sometimes even when you let it go so that it'll work out for both of you, you end up kind of going for the undercut, get it back right away, and then they got into it again. So that's going to put a bit of a gap, unfortunately, between those two drivers. But we do have Dan Szczynski between the two of them now. So a pretty good fight for P2 in S2 at the moment.
It is rather intense. Michelle Lynn, the Pied Piper of this pack. Martin Visser in P13, Dan Szczynski in 14th, and Michael Lattarulo holding on to 15th place at the moment. I will say the battling up at the front has warmed up in one sense and cooled off in another. Darme Toomey is holding on to a 1.3 second gap. He's been able to break away as the battling is still rather intense. That was Brian Hansen with a double, nearly quadruple lockup into the hairpin. I have no idea what happened there, but that's not going to help out his cause. He's running in P16 at the moment is Brian Hansen, so unfortunate for him to have that moment. But here's Darme Toomey and the gap that he has built. What in the world took place here? Because
once again,
this is rather odd.
Yeah, it looks like so. I do have it's been a little bit difficult to keep up with this one. Let's see. We got Darman Toomey getting past Andy Middleton here, and I believe this is going to be down the back straight. And let's see if anything takes place into the chicane here, perhaps. So keep an eye on our relatives here live to see if we miss anything. This time, nothing happening too much yet, so we'll keep an eye on this for the moment. So I think he's going to get by pretty clean there. Interesting. And then we'll have another pass here where he's going to get by Felix Samoes. And it looks like maybe we're just, maybe there was a couple mistakes on track for some of the drivers, because these passes are looking fairly standard at the moment.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit farther back because you can see Nate Coliseo pulling over to the side of the road with the suspension damage in the moment that he had with Chris Montgomery.
Yeah,
He's
correct. Yeah.
For
perhaps I'm not getting updates here.
A handful of laps. So we'll come back to that. Try to figure out what the issue is. Either way, it doesn't matter what the equation is. We still have the sum, and the sum of it is that Darme Toomey is on track for a win if he can manage this gap in the final 8 minutes of this race. And Andy Middleton and Felix Samoes are going to have to decide who runs at our podium.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I maybe found an update here. So this is going to be the more recent pass of Darme Toomey around Felix Samoes, and it looks like maybe Samoes is going to make...
Wow.
Yep, so we have a bit of an incident with Samoes, and he's actually going to push Middleton a little bit wide. So that's going to be where that gap came from there. So Samoes cracking a little bit into T1 there.
Yeah, that is a rather easy mistake to make. I think everybody on iRacing has had that sort of moment take place. Sideways snap, rear end steps out a little bit, have to drop the anchors to try and keep it going in a straight line. Unfortunately for Andy Middleton, really nowhere that he could have gone at, just had to check up, and Felix and Middleton, now their own company, as Dorme Toomey is very happy about having the open house. Looks like Brian Szynski could very well get involved in this battle too. 2.8 seconds, 2.9 more like is the gap, so he would have to hope for a miracle, but I've seen stranger things. I don't even have a Netflix account. Here's Jim Brewster and Justin Huffman. This is a battle for P6 presently. Guido Marzuki has dropped them to about 1 second. These racers continue to set quick laps. Of 3 of them, Huffman, Brewster, and Tostas, all setting their personal best laps of the race last time by peaking at the right time as we get into the final handful of moments.
Yeah, it's definitely, this is kind of crunch time here near the end of the race, and we do have some pretty big gaps out there between drivers, but not totally insurmountable gaps, especially, again, because of the mistakes that can be made around here in the wee hours as well. Sometimes you just kind of relax a bit. You get a little complacent near the end of the race. You decide to kind of just relax a little, and that's when you find a wall, or that's when you find a sleeping policeman, or maybe you tighten up a little bit at the end of races. You're one of the types that, it's almost over and you start to tighten up a little bit and you can make a mistake as well. But up at the front here, Darmid Toomey looking pretty clean so far. It doesn't look like he's set up to make any giant mistakes or anything here. And I have to say the race behind him there, though, pretty much still up for grabs. So I'm not sure where I'd want to be if I was Felix Samoes and Andy Middleton, but I have a feeling we're going to definitely have some side-by-side racing before it's done. And Brian Szynski back there as well, finding some pace in the last little while, not just around here, but at multiple tracks now. So I'd say it's a trend. Brian Szynski has found some pace in this car, and he's been up in the top 4 or 5 pretty much every race now.
Yeah, Brian Szynski, part of a real-life multi-generation family of Formula V racers. His dad, Bill, raced Formula Vs. Brian was running in the SCCA runoffs back in 2025, and his brother, Dan, also has driven in Formula V machinery as well. But Brian, your reigning Spec 2 champion here on the Formula V Weekend Warriors, trying to make hay in this battle and try and close it up, turn it into a 3-car fight, but I just don't think it is enough. The issue that he has got, he's setting in some very good lap times, but Andy Middleton and Felix Samoes, even in their battling that they're doing right now, side by side out of turn number 2, they're getting a bit of draft help from Dorme Toomey, and they're experienced enough to know when exactly they can leapfrog, so they're pretty much making the best out of a bad situation. So Brian Szynski not really able to close up that gap. He's pretty much running effectively in no man's land at the moment. One of the maybe one of the most bored drivers out there on the racetrack. We get the opportunity to have a chat with him in a couple of weeks. We'll have to go back to this Montreal race, ask whether or not he had time to check his email. Darme Toomey on track for a win in Spec 1, just a touch on the classes here. Jim Brewster is leading in the Masters category, and the next closest Masters competitor to him is Nick Tullo. So Brewster running in 7th, Tullo running in 11th. Very convenient set of circumstances for Jim Brewster. I hope that pun at least got caught by one person. Jason Grider, meanwhile, is your leader in Spec 2 with Martin Visser running in 13th. That was maybe the worst one of all time.
I'm not even sure I caught that one. I'm going to have to hit the replay on that. I was busy looking at cameras, but it's just funny. It actually makes me laugh when I miss stuff now, because it's I'm going to come back later and have a look at that for sure. I am making a funny comms video that should hopefully be out. I don't know. I'm not sure when it's going to be out. I'm not going to say when it's going to be out, but it will be out, and it will be funny, and I'll go back and have a look at that. And if it was a sufficient enough pun, Ron, it will make the video for sure. But I trust you. You've definitely got some bangers in there. JR's got a few. There's some good ones. I'm still yet to have too many, other than just my own foibles. I don't do anything too funny on purpose, let's say. I just make mistakes that are funny.
Oh, trust me, I've had my fair share of many goofs. It was funny, actually. I was having a conversation with my best friend on the drive to the grocery store the other day, and she put on the radio. It was the band Weezer and their cover of the Billie Jean song by Michael Jackson. I said, I think I recognize this. Is that Weezer's cover of Billy Joel? I didn't even catch it, and that was probably the hardest I've ever heard her laugh, and it wasn't even on purpose. Justin Huffman currently battling for P6, but now he's got some company. Guido was out of harm's way for a while, but he's in the splash zone once more, running in P5 with Justin Huffman only about 0.4 of a second in tow, and Jim Brewster not too terribly far behind either. So with the battling a little bit farther up the road seeming to cool off, this may be the battle to keep our eyes on for that final spot inside the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. We know Jim Brewster, the likes of Jim Brewster and Huffman here as well are going to look for that position for sure, and they're close enough to each other to start giving each other a hard time here as well. So these 3 drivers, definitely keep an eye on them for the end of the race here, and Guido trying as hard as he can here to just kind of sail off into the sunset, just finish this darn race in the position he's in and not lose anymore. But we shall see how it works out here between these 3 drivers. Things have kind of calmed down here up at the front. Toomey's still leading, by almost 2 seconds, so he's pretty safely outside of draft range here. Middleton and Jasinski and Samoas just behind him, all still able to kind of play for position there. I believe Jasinski's just a little bit out of draft now as well, but all to play for the 70 of Middleton and the number 1 of Felix Samoas. He's actually going to look up the outside here into 13 and 14, going to get that one done. So not really sure if I would have fought that right now either. You probably want to let him have it and then come back to fight for the last lap. I don't think I would want to be in front of the car in front of me going into the last lap here, but that's just me. So perhaps we'll see the 70 feign an incident here and let Samoas by so he can draft him again, or maybe he'll try to hold on to it to the end there. You never know what is going to happen here at the end, but I think it's going to be a little bit of fireworks before we're done. White lap, or sorry, no, we're not quite white flag yet.
I think we are on the white flag lap with them coming across. Yeah, it's a very lengthy lap here, which is a bit surprising considering this track is less than 3 miles, 2-minute long lap. So the white flag is in the air. One more lap of racing action here at Montreal. Darmé Toomey looking to cap off what has been an up and down start to the season for him and become the first driver who's not named Tortolo to win a Formula V race in 2026, season 1 here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. He's able to do it if he could just hang on for another half a lap. Meanwhile, the racers behind, I think they've given up hope of trying to catch up, so they're starting to battle with each other. Andy Middleton and Felix Samoas have been working together for so long, but now Civil War is breaking out. There's Samoas and Middleton nearly making contact as they headed their way under the bridge, but through the A9 chicane, Samoas is able to get that P2 spot. Middleton now going to be the one in the catbird seat with the draft, heading down into the champion chicane at the end of the lap. We'll see if he can make it work. Meanwhile, Ryan Sazinski on track for P4, and the battling for 5th still not over with Justin Huffman, Guido Marzucchi, and Jim Brewster covered by about a half a second. Look at that train of cars. Look at Jim maybe thinking about going for a move down into the turn he thinks better of, and I think rightfully so. We'll have to see how that battle goes out. In the meantime, though, Darmé Toomey about to win. Felix Samoas about to get overtaken for second as here comes Andy Middleton with the run of a lifetime. This is going to be close to contact potentially, noting a little bit of rear suspension damage, it looks like, on Samoas' car. That may affect him slightly. It looks like that rear wheel's cambered out a little bit, but he's last of the late breakers into the chicane. He's going to get P2, but Darmé Toomey is going to come across the line and for the first time in his Formula V Weekend Warriors career take the checkered flag. Darmé Toomey wins it here in Montreal. Samoas, Middleton round out your podium in P2 and P3. Sazinski finishes in 4th. Guido Marzucchi going to finish in P5 as a fight right to the line with Huffman and Brewster. Give it a Huffman, P6 for him. Brewster wins it in the Masters category in P7. I think we may have another battle to take our look at. It's actually for the final podium spot of the Spec 2 racers. Dan Sazinski holding on to P14 right now, but he's got Michael Latarullo and Brian Hansen all over the back of him. This may get tense. Yeah,
a little bit more of a fight here. So a couple fights at the end. Pretty close for for Samoas and Van Middleton there, but he's able to hold on to it at the end. And then this as well, not going to be quite as close as you'd want it to be, but that was a great battle for S2 there. That must have been super fun on track between the 3 or 4 of them, pretty much the whole race there, kind of racing pretty close to each other. So good stuff there. Jim Brewster going to take the win in Masters fairly easily there over Nick Tulloh. And I'd say all in all, Ron, that was a pretty good outing to Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. No massive pile-ups or anything. Some pretty good passes facilitated. I'd say it was a win.
Yeah, it was a darn good race here, and I am expecting some sort of shenanigans with it. Well, you don't really have a jump unless you use some of the curbs. I'm thinking it's just going to be a crash 'em up wreckfest. I am, quite frankly, mortified as to what we're going to be seeing here. The drivers have gone some air over the years. I remember my karting buddy Robbie, him and I used to go on the old F1 games and see who could create the biggest accidents at all sorts of different racetracks, Montreal being no different. And it turns out in some of those mid-2010s F1 games from about a decade ago, if you hit some of the curbs, you would be able to strike the moon. We'll follow Michelle Lynn. That was Dan Szynski going backwards. Oh, into the wall. This, it's like a bowling alley. Oh no. Oh man. Look away, Butterworth. Somebody's going to try and hit him, and I don't know how that's going to break iRacing's physics, because I think he's stuck in the fence at the moment.
Oh, we got somebody coming here. Let's see if he targets him. This is Nick Tulloh. See if he can hit Wayne Buttermore. No. Nope.
Oh.
Boom! The John Player special car. Always fun to burn it down at the end. Not too many places, like you said, at Montreal really to get it done here, but we'll always find some kind of a spot to bash the cars. Really nice paint job on Rodrigo Tosta's car here. Very nice paint on there. We love to see paint jobs. Also, if you're looking for a paint job, TW3 Paints, you can get in touch with him through us here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, doing a bunch of the paints you see out there. Not necessarily Rodriguez is there from another artist, I believe, but one of our paint partners there. You can get some good stuff done from him as well. But I think that is going to wrap up Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve here on. We can probably get to some results, or do you want to hit an interview first?
I think we will do the results, give some of these drivers the opportunity to join us in the broadcast booth. I want to thank Chris Montgomery for making today's action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting for Round 5 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors possible.
Yeah, huge thanks.
And also want to thank Whiplash SimCams for providing the cameras for this show. But here are your results. Darmay Toomey wins over Felix Samoas in P2. Andy Middleton going to walk away with the final podium spot in third, with Brian Szynski finishing in fourth. Guido Marzucchi in P5. Justin Huffman in sixth. Jim Brewster in P7, winning it in the Masters category. Rodrigo Tostes will finish in eighth. Jason Grider wins it in Spec 2, finishing in ninth, with Chris Montgomery completing our top 10.
Yeah, and then in 11th place, we have Series Admin Duldime Racing driver Michelle Lynn in 11th place. In 12th, we have Nick Tulloh, which will be second place in Masters. In second place in Spec 2, we have Martin Visser in 13th place. Dan Szynski is going to hold on to that third place in Spec 2. In 15th place, we have Michael Laturo. In 16th, we have Brian Hansen. In 17th, Gary Kittle. In 18th, Wayne Buttermore, and if I can reach the button here, there we go. 19th, we have Stefan Westcott. In 20th, we have Nate Colascio. That's our lowest finishing S1 driver. And Gary Thompson in 21st. Stevie Ray, unfortunately, I think probably right off the bat, first lap. I'm not even sure he started. Unfortunately, got caught up there. And Brent Thompson as well. The bottom three drivers there not getting past that first corner, I don't think.
I think it may have been a later on moment for Stevie, because I believe at the end of this we were trying to think of how many laps we were able to complete. It was certainly some time that we were able to do. I think 15 laps. Unfortunate for Brett Thompson to get taken out very early. I'm not sure if he took the start, but let's move off into the interviews, because I think there's some drivers looking to have a chat with us, and I think we will get the interviews up and rolling by first having a chat with a man who's always fun to speak to, and our winner in the Masters category here today, Jim Brewster, now joining us here in the broadcast booth. Jim, welcome in. Congrats on the Masters win. How was it there at Montreal?
Well, I'm just here for a short time. I just want to really thank Justin Huffman for a really good race. I knew he was our best chance to catch Guido, and sure enough, by us working together, we got the Guido. Now, he did scare the daylights out of me with a few missed shifts that I had to swerve around. But other than that, Justin's super guy. He runs a Formula Enterprise at Summit Point, and I hang around with him sometimes at Summit Point, and real good guy. So it was real good. I saw that he had a real good time in that Wednesday race a couple weeks ago, so I was looking forward to running with him. Too bad about Michelle missing the start, and once again, as Michelle always said last year, I have to thank Andrew's granddaughter for having a dance recital today, and so anyway, so I'll leave you guys go. Thanks for everything you do. Very technical track. You had to jump the curbs just the right way every single lap, and but I think it was a pretty good run.
It was a fun race, and we didn't even notice that Michelle started from the pit, so interesting to see the recovery drive from her, and hope Andrew is enjoying the dance recital. But Jim, well done on the Masters win, and we will see you for the next round of the championship in 1 week's time when the series rocks up to Phillip Island. That's going to be a fun one.
Oh, you know that. Would you like to hear what Michelle said when she found out that she was starting from the pit lane?
Yeah.
As long as we can air it.
No.
Get my hand on the beeper. Me.
You'll have to ask Michelle what she said. See you guys next week.
Okay.
Thanks for everything. Hi, Tam.
Thanks, Jim.
See, Michelle's from Philly, just like me. I know what my reaction would have been in that moment.
I have
So
a pretty
I can
good
kind of
idea what she
understand
said. Yeah.
hers would have been, yeah.
I can guess.
Oh, bleep, 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 and a bleep, bleep,
Bleepity bleep.
on a bleep, bleep stick. Alrighty,
Yeah.
so Josh, I'll let you have next dibs on the interview. Who do you want to have a chat with?
Yeah, let's bring Jason Grider in here, our Spec 2 winner from today, and I believe maybe hard charger as well.
I believe so, yeah.
Jason, quite the race out there today. Started kind of far back in the pack, but we're able to make up a bunch of positions, and you're in S2, or sorry, the S2 winner as well. How'd it go out there for you?
It was pretty crazy. I think that's my first S2 win ever, so that's pretty cool.
Excellent.
And then on the first lap, they had a little bit of an accordion there, turn I think 4 or 5, and I got into the back of Martin, and then Brian Hansen got in the back of me, and I felt super bad about that because I think he took the brunt of the damage. I didn't have any damage from that. And then getting around Martin was tough, but when I finally was able to, I started putting a little time in behind, putting a little time in getting away from them, and they were kind of fighting a little bit back there, so I was able to get a pretty good lead until just getting worried about Chris Montgomery coming up and passing me for P9, and I managed to stay in front of him through some blind luck. And yeah, this is a good race. Good race.
Yeah, from up here in the booth, it was a great race too. Pretty clean out there as well. You are kind of fighting the track around here for sure. It's not the easiest track, very technical. You know, I was saying in the booth here, this place can feel flowy, and it can feel really stop-starty and very difficult sometimes as well. It kind of seems to depend on the mood, and you know, for you to find that flow, you kind of have to roll with the punches and use the curbs and be happy with getting close to walls and so on. Is that something you enjoy, like you know, street courses and just kind of hustly tracks like this, or is this something you kind of look you're more happy to see in the rear view mirror and maybe a bigger, wider track?
If you asked me that question at the start, the answer would be different. But yeah, I was pretty happy with how the race went, and for me, and in the track itself. It got a little slippery in the hairpin as the track went on, and of course you're downshifting into second to come out of that corner, and yeah, so you have to be real careful not to spin the tires and spin the car in the process. I just got in a groove there in the middle of the race. I was just there by myself and was able to get consistent 205s, which for me here is doing great. I'm not anywhere near as fast as our S1 drivers and most of the S2 drivers. So I was just, you know, kind of blind luck that I got out there and got in the front of S2.
This seems to be one of those tracks. It's if you can kind of click your laps off and be consistent, and you had some speed today, then kind of anything can happen around here. It's it's a difficult track and lots of mistakes to be made. It's definitely a track of errors for sure. But we are headed to, I believe, Phillip Island next, which always seems to provide great racing. Are you looking forward to that one?
Absolutely. I love Phillip Island. It's a great track for these cars. It's probably a little bit drafty for some of our drivers, but it's not lime rock drafty, which is also it's good.
Right. Yep.
But I always love going down here for that race.
Excellent. Right on, man. Well, good racing today. Good first win in S2. Congratulations, man. That always feels great. It's always a good accomplishment. I know you've been around for a while, and getting that win always feels really good. So we'll let you thank anybody you'd like to thank here, and we'll let you go on your way.
I got to thank all the competitors in our series, and just always a pleasant experience. Look forward to it every week. I got to thank my family for putting up with this crazy hobby that sometimes they don't understand, but they at least respect.
Hopefully we help with that a bit here at SMB for you. We can.
Absolutely. It's good having video evidence. Sometimes
there we go. Yeah. Live, yep. It is for sure.
It is. And I got to thank Brian Sazinski as well, because I gave me some setup help last night, and that really, after getting used to it, it really helped me be consistent and really good here. And I was really happy with that setup, and I always thank Michelle for her support, and Jim for theirs as well. Always a good group we have here, and love being out here every week.
Excellent. Right on. Yep. Always got to thank the admins and stuff. And right on. Thanks for the kind words, man. We will see you next week at Phillip Island.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I absolutely forgot to say thank you to SMB. You guys do a great job.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Always appreciate it.
Our pleasure, dude. We love it. Thanks, man. Have a good one.
You too.
And that right there was Jason Grutter. I will say, folks, my microphone is very good here, but I do apologize if there's been some scraping coming from my side. People decided that they would shovel the sidewalks. It snowed an inch for context, so we're gonna swiftly and abruptly move on before I lose my mind. Let's have a chat with Wayne Baltimore, because he had a pretty wild race, turning a Formula V into a monster truck. But from there, I believe he put on a rousing recovery drive. Wayne Baltimore joining us now in the broadcast booth. Wayne, welcome in. Pretty wild race for you here at Montreal. Started up on two wheels, end up in P18, 2 spots gained from the drop of the green flag. How was it out there?
Well, yeah, it was a little precarious on that opening lap in the hairpin there. I got caught up in, I don't know, 3 or 4 of us that were tangled up. And yes, I noticed that I was looking at the sky for a short time there. Fortunately, I didn't have any real significant damage. So once we got untangled, I was able to continue.
Yeah, I gotta imagine that seeing a sky in a Formula V is not ideal. I do have to ask you, though, how was it monster trucking over the cars parked in front? Because that's always pretty fun to do in a race car. Maybe a little bit terrifying in a V, but still.
Yeah, that's true. There's not a lot of cushioning when you land back on the ground. That's probably the biggest part. Fortunately, in the virtual world, you don't get your spine jammed up too bad. So, again, we were able to keep going.
And oh boy, that puts me back into my karting days when my back was hurting. I think my teeth have been ground down to the gums because of the amount of bumps that I hit over my 10 years racing in them. But Wayne, it was a pretty darn good race for you here today. Do want to ask you though, Phillip Island next time out. That's a pretty big draft track. So what are your thoughts heading to the likely pandemonium down under in 1 week's time?
I'm going to have to get out and get some practice in there because I don't really have any experience over there. And so I'm not sure what to expect. For me, being able to stay with the draft is pretty important because I don't usually set stellar pace on my own. And which kind of resulted in a little bit of action today anyway with Steve Westcott. He caught up with me and we were able to dice it out a couple of times. And fortunately, I held him off. So we'll see if maybe I can do something similar next week at Phillips Island.
Yeah, we're expecting some wild racing there, and looking forward to seeing you back out there on the racetrack, Wayne. But before we let you go and get some practice in for that race, we'll let you give any thanks or shout-outs.
Yeah, certainly. I'd start out by thanking Chris for sponsoring this week's race, getting us the broadcast, and you guys up there in the booth. I guess this is Ron and Josh both up there today.
Yeah, thank you.
With our admins, Michelle, Jim, Brian, Jason. There's a whole bunch of guys that are making a big contribution every week, and without that, we wouldn't be able to have these events. So thanks to all of them. And lastly, but not least, is my wife for giving me the time to come out here and play in the afternoon and have fun with all my friends here.
Oh, there we go, man. Always gotta get special approval. Wayne, thank you for the kind words. Thank you for joining us in the booth. Well done on the comeback tour, and we'll see you next time at Phillip Island.
Okay, hopefully I'll be in the booth again with you guys. See you then.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Fingers crossed. That right there was Wayne Baltimore, and as I bring him out of the broadcast booth, we see the replay of his two-wheeled action right towards the drop
launch
of the green.
Oh,
that's,
right. Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly there, and I believe it's I think that was Gary Thompson in the Maryland-themed 889 car, and a little bit of glue going on there. I believe Brett Thompson was the other driver involved in that, who eventually decided just to call it quits here in this race. Yeah, let's see this again, because this is yeah, there's a contact. There's Szynski up in front, and he was briefly. I think he either had just one wheel on the ground for a brief period, or he had all four up off the deck.
Yeah, that looked like all four up off the deck for a second there, for sure. Like he was saying, that in real life would have hurt the back quite a bit, but you know, in the virtual world, we don't have to worry about our spines so much. But yeah, other than that, pretty darn good race today, Ron, at Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve here. I'd say that was a success.
Yeah, I would say so. We didn't see too many people strike the moon. The Crash 'em Up Wreckfest towards the end of the broadcast wasn't too catastrophic. I think we just had a good time here. But Phillip Island next time out, man, that is going to be. I think there is only one word really to describe, and that is pandemonium.
Yeah, it does seem to really breed some good racing, so definitely looking forward to that one. And of course, we have a whole bunch more coming up here as well in the next day or two. I believe we're back here tomorrow in the Spec Racer Fords. I decided to put Montreal there instead of Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, but they are the same thing at 2:45 tomorrow, the Spec Racer Fords. And then, of course, after that, we have XSLR is back after their little hiatus there for a week, and we'll be at Daytona Road. And I believe, which class are we still in the TCRs there, Ron? Are we not? We're not quite to the F3s yet, are we?
Yeah, one more week of the TCRs, and I am very excited for the F3s. Not only do I adore the F3, but the TCRs are
not so good. I'm really looking forward to the F3s, and I think I might actually try to get out there and race some of those F3 races. I'm hoping that I will have the time free. But also on Sunday night we have the return of Liberty Bell on at VIR, and they will be in the GR86 from now on for the rest of the season. So that one should be a pretty interesting one as well. Excited to see how everybody gets on with that one. And then, of course, we are the return of American Muscle Series here at Brands Hatch. That's going to be round 2 of AMS at Brands Hatch. Should be a good one. First round was fantastic. Some amazing driving around there. And then we're headed to Barcelona with the F4s on January 20th at 10:20 p.m. That will be another very good race. Last one, F4 crew getting faster and faster every time I have the luxury of doing those productions there. They are getting better and better every week. And then our favorite cars, F3s at Suzuka, which is just a beautiful place to bring those cars. Great combo. I think that's going to be a fantastic race. And then we start it all over again the week after that, Ron, with the Vs.
And also Road Atlanta, the debut race for the F3s over in XSLR as well. So a lot of different action to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Gives you a very good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. But as for this broadcast here today for round number 5 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Joshua Wilkie, working the comms and the cams with me on today's show, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.